and welcome to Queer and Loathing, the only podcast made exclusively for you, big boy. I'm your host, Brett Bodie, and with me are my co-hosts.
I'm Mel.
I'm Samantha.
And today, we're talking about a relatively new release, which may be refreshing to some of you, called The First Omen.
I wrote a little something that I wanted Brett and Samantha to listen to, okay? So, what movie am I describing? A hot American babe arrives in Rome. She's a novice nun and has come to Italy to finish her training and give her vows to become a real nun. She was encouraged to come by her religious mentor, a kindly member of the Catholic clergy whom she trusts. However, there is a secret plot underway. A radical and secret sect of Catholics is plotting to impregnate a virgin with a child they believe will save the church and the world along with it. Our heroine gets caught up in the plot as she unravels the mysteries of her new home and her own past. Brett, which movie am I describing?
I can't help but feel this is a bit of a trick question, Mel, because some of our sharper viewers may notice that it is a description for this movie, The First Omen.
It is.
And the movie Immaculate, which was released like 2 weeks before this one.
It is.
They have the exact same plot.
Broadly, I will say, is like as
Yeah,
much...
Lots of differences in execution. I'm not claiming they're the same movie, but they do have the exact same premise.
They are
basically.
both that.
Yes.
That is where they stop being similar.
Agreed.
I will say, but I was so tickled because we had briefly talked about Immaculate in our like Meet the Hosts episode, and then Brett saw Immaculate, and then did you ever see it?
No.
I mean, you
I'm
did,
going to.
basically, because you saw The First Omen.
But I will say that like so after Brett watched Immaculate, and then we all saw The First Omen, and I was like, okay, we're gonna have to talk about Immaculate again.
Yeah, it's kind of the elephant in the room.
Y'all, it's hot nun summer.
Hot nun summer.
And they are some pretty hot nuns.
We got
There are some
hot
nuns.
babe nuns getting impregnated, and I am so excited to talk about this movie with y'all.
Me too.
Me too.
Whereas Immaculate felt very much like a homage to 70s nunsploitation. Sleaze. It was beautifully made and produced, high budget, absolute sleaze, which I enjoyed. For me, The First Omen was very well crafted, well executed.
Pseudo art house?
So in line with the original, The Omen.
Yes.
And it was kind of amazing to see that, like, what could have easily been a cash grab. I was like, oh, great, a prequel to a movie from 50 years ago to try to, like, pump some cash out of this franchise. Then seeing it, I was like, what the hell? It's actually really good.
I will say I've never seen any of the Omen movies until now, and I was really nervous about it because I was like, how scared am I going to get? Am I going to hate it? And I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I wasn't as scared as I expected to be. I also told Brett I definitely had 2 alcoholic beverages because I was like, I gotta chill out during this because I think my heart was a-racing because I was like, I'm getting ready to be scared, but I really enjoyed it. I actually thought a lot of it was pretty beautifully done, and now I want to see the original.
And I'm excited for you to see the original, because that, to me, is a great movie.
I
as
love
well.
The Omen.
I really love The Omen. Great performance by the Gregory Peck.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Lieb Schreiber.
No. There is also
The
a
remake.
2006 remake that I maybe wouldn't suggest starting there, let's say, or ending there, or traveling there.
But that's what I
If I
expected
watched
from
that
this.
one
Me too.
next, would you kill me?
No.
Yes.
Sorry.
Let my response be stricken from the record. No, I wouldn't do violence to
If
anyone.
I died suddenly after watching the remake.
I refuse
it
to
was
comment.
Brett.
It wouldn't have been me.
It was Brett.
I'm deleting this.
I felt like this movie played a huge homage, not just to the original Omen, but also Suspiria, the
Yes.
Argento Suspiria, and Possession.
Yes. Okay,
Like-
good. I got this.
We're on the same
We're
page.
comparing answers. We got the same test answers.
We all get an A+ except Samantha.
Except for me, who's seen none of those movies.
Well, you get
either.
an A because you're cute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think so too.
And we're grading on a curve.
Let's talk about
Let's
this
get
movie.
right in.
We all liked it. And it starts, as I said, it is sort of the plot itself is fairly boilerplate. The twist was not very surprising to me.
No.
Nope.
Like, and I don't think it mattered.
Nope.
Agreed.
Like the plot here is as straightforward as it needs to be because, like a lot of great Italian horror before it, this movie is about the vibe, the visuals, the sound, the experience.
And I've got to say, the performances.
Yeah.
The lead in this movie, Nell Tiger Free. The only thing I think I've ever seen her in, she played Marcella Lannister in Game of
The
Thrones.
little girl?
When she was old enough to be married off and sent to Dorne in seasons like
So we
5
have
and
2
6.
Lannisters in this movie.
Yes, because in our very first scene, we also have actually there's another one too, but in the first scene we have also a Lannister.
Yep.
Game of Thrones
Tywin.
alum. Tywin, the incomparable Charles Dance.
Oh my God. I did not know he was going to be in this. And I have a note
was so
here
happy.
that said, I was so happy to recognize so many old white guys.
Yeah,
The
but they were good
3,
ones. They got good ones.
I was 3 for 3 on old white guys. I was like, Bill Nighy is here,
Yes.
trying
Yeah.
to do an American accent, kind of
Yeah.
poorly, but it was
You know,
fine.
It didn't take me out of it.
No.
Oh, no. I was just happy to see that he was like still alive because I kind of forgot about him. And then the guy from the Vavitch.
Yes, Ralph Ineson.
The guy with the best voice
Yes.
ever.
Who was also on Game of Thrones in a smaller role as a wilding in an early season.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Oh, yeah, he's great.
So yeah, so 3 Game of Thrones alums all did great, but especially I thought Nell Tiger Free as our protagonist
So good.
And I
was just fantastic. There was not a false note. I was kind of left being like, I'm expecting big things from her career. I thought she really was stellar.
So yeah, we won't necessarily need to go through the whole plot here, but the general idea is literally what I said. We have our nun lady. She is arriving in Rome, and now this one, unlike Immaculate, where the time that it took place was very confusing to me, and I was shocked when a cell phone appeared because I thought it was in the 70s. This one is in the 70s.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I had the same exact moment during Immaculate where I was like, I saw the phone and I was like, I've been so wrong about the time period this movie takes place in.
Walking around with like candles for light,
I
and it's
know.
like 2005 or whatever, whenever
I know,
that takes place.
I don't know what that was, but yeah, I appreciated that they went with the 70s setting.
Yes.
Also, the very first scene was very Omen. There was like a teaser one that was Charles Dance, where they're like 2 priests talking about there's a conspiracy in the Catholic Church while a stained glass window is being lifted.
Yes,
to be
ominously.
mounted on the church from some scaffolding. And you'll never guess what happens to that stained glass window hanging above these 2 men having
There's a
I don't
scene
know.
conversation.
that is quite similar from the original Omen
Okay.
that I saw coming, and I was honestly like, even though I was really excited to see Charles Dance and voice guy from the Vavitch, I was a little nervous because I was like, oh, this is just gonna be like beat for beat. Because there were a few scenes that were maybe my least favorite parts of the movie where they were just kind of replays
Yes.
of what,
You could call it a very direct homage,
Yes.
which might be the polite way to put it.
and it's, I guess it's been long enough that it's fine.
It didn't bother me.
It was okay, but I was a little nervous. And then from there, all my fears were whisked away because we have this sort of cold open where there's some kind of conspiracy.
Yes, and it's very vague. There's like a photograph being passed with a name on it, but we don't really know what that's about. And then the stained glass window shatters, and there's some lovely shots of the stuff raining down. Editor Brett here. So I just referred to a beautiful shot where a stained glass window breaks and the stuff rains down. So some of our keener listeners may know that the stuff that I'm attempting to refer to is more commonly known as glass. There's also a pipe that falls, and Ralph Ineson's like, "You okay, bro?" And Charles Dance is like, "Why, yes." And then he turns around and the back of his head is just split open.
Not to be that person, but I always am. I will say I wish they had staged that differently because they're so far away from where that was
I
happening.
wondered about that too.
Not a perfect movie, but I will say, like, the opening scene and the final scene are maybe not my favorite parts of the movie. We'll get to that. But it starts with her arriving in Rome after this cold open, and she's a little like baby nun initiate, and she's greeted by Bill Nighy, which again, just happy to see him.
It's fun, nice to see a familiar face, almost a comforting presence of like, we're in good hands, like Bill Nighy's here.
Yeah. And then she's taken to, so Immaculate is in a creepy setting where it's in a like convalesce nunnery, like it's like people who are dying being taken care of nuns, also more in the countryside of Rome. In this one, we're set in Rome where there's like a lot of political unrest, which is a big part of the movie, which reminded me maybe a little bit more of the Suspiria remake.
Agreed.
Yeah. But it takes place in Rome in a orphanage, which is important for our lead and also creepy, which I love. I love a creepy little setting. And again, like Immaculate, everyone's super excited to see her there. Everyone's like very friendly, but then there's a couple weird people.
Some weird things happening.
There's some weird nuns.
Super creepy nun.
There's always got to be a creepy nun.
No eyebrow creepy nun. She nailed it, that actress. I don't know her
So
either,
good.
but man. Also unlike Immaculate, I thought Margaret, our protagonist in this, wasn't a total dumbass and actually knew some Italian.
She tried to learn
and made
Italian.
an effort and like, I was like, Sydney Sweeney, get it the fuck together. Italian is not that hard.
Also, she was like on bed rest for 9 months in Immaculate and picked up no Italian.
None. She had chow.
This protagonist, you feel for her because she is an orphan who has a dark past. She was troubled. They hint that she has some kind of hallucinations, which is like another girl, young
Carlita.
troubled girl, red herring girl.
Yes.
In the opening, they're trying to make it. They say there is a young woman who would be probably in her late teens, is what they say by her age, who is this like special child who was birthed in an unholy way, something. So you as the audience are going in knowing there's a young woman who is like the chosen one in a bad way. And you are then introduced to main character, troubled girl who's being so creepy in the beginning.
No eyebrows.
No eyebrow, none.
None.
And so those are like your three that you start with that it's like, which one of them is it?
Yeah.
And then they lean so hard on it being the kid that you're like,
Yeah.
oh,
You
it's the
know.
main
That was
character.
what it was.
Right.
And the more they leaned into it being Carlita, the more convinced
Like,
I was. It's
okay.
like, obviously it's Margaret.
Well, and, like, the fact that Bill Nighy, like, took Margaret under his wing and it's like, oh, we're taking care of you and we need you. Why don't you come here to this orphanage and mentor these orphans?
Yes. And just having someone like him who can be such a comforting presence and like clearly puts Margaret at ease makes everything that happens
You're too
later
at ease,
so much more
Margaret.
effective. Yeah. She's in a false sense of security.
I saw him in this really good art house movie that was like super good that no one's seen, and it was called Underworld. Oh, you're already looking at me like you knew that was.
Every setup is like this.
It makes me laugh every time.
Is this the underworld I've seen?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just being stupid. I watch so much trash, but it's like,
I've seen Underworld.
yeah, no, we all have seen
Yeah, it's
Underworld.
like-
If
I
you're-
have seen Underworld.
It's like we were the age
Yes.
at the time.
If
to
you were
see
a
Underworld.
horny millennial
Who liked vampires?
which we
Hello.
all did in the
Yes.
late aughts, we've all seen Underworld, and he plays it's the same kind of fake out. Like, he's the kindly old man, the father figure, the trusted, who's like actually the bad guy.
But he's
But we
good
love
at that.
him.
Yeah.
We love him for it.
Margaret is kind of, she moves into an apartment. That's the thing. She's not living at the orphanage.
Which I liked.
I also
Yeah.
liked it. And so directly Suspiria. It's
Yes.
like the same setup.
Yes.
Because she also has to move into like an off-campus apartment, sharing it with like a stranger. And this girl seems so nice. And she's like, yeah, I'm kind of nervous about taking my vows too, whatever. And then at one point she's like, let's get dolled up because you want to know. I kind of liked what she said. She was like, you need to know
What you're giving up.
what it is that you're giving up by
Yeah.
taking your vows. So she wanted her to like wear a nice dress and some makeup, and they go out to a disco.
She puts
And I
a
can
wig
get-
on.
Yeah, she
right,
does,
right.
which is actually really funny.
I was like, what the fuck? She's got this big blonde wig on.
And they meet some young Italian men.
So cute.
You'll never believe that they're horny.
No, you won't.
Again, playing against type.
Yes.
You're happy for her. You're like, yeah, go
Yeah.
have this experience, have some fun, and
it
you're in a
was-
different country, like, and you think you're in the safe hands of your roommate
Yes. Who has been nothing but nice to you at this
Right.
point and understanding. But and I kind of like that Margaret was open to that. She didn't really
Yeah.
fight too hard. She was like, okay, I guess I can do this. Like, maybe you're right. And they go out, and Margaret's takes a while to warm up. She's chatting with this guy, like her roommate and the other guy are like dancing and whatever. They're already having a time. But Margaret just wants to sit at the table and chat with this guy. He seems very chill and like
Nice.
understanding. He's not really trying to pressure her into much. He kind of laughs at something because she picked up some Italian that some of the orphans told her.
Yeah.
I thought
like-
that was really cute, that scene.
It was cute.
Because it could have been like, oh, I'm a slut, like something horrible,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that kids would do. But
Because
it
they
was just,
tell her that it
I'm a
means, like,
butterfly and I need to fly.
but what they told her was that like
I'm a teacher and I
love
must
to
teach.
teach.
Yeah.
So that was sweet. So yeah, what she said to him is, "I'm a
That's so
butterfly," and he was
cute.
flying. He was like, "Okay, well, let's get you flying." And you think that's sweet, and then you find out later that it was not a fun night.
I had to remind myself what I was watching. I was like, this is
Yeah.
so sweet.
But I did really like, that was a twist in the movie that I did enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
is that you watch that scene and you think the point of it is that there's, she blacked out and then she has a bit of a breakdown and maybe she's like questioning things and, she clearly has like some mental health issues, but that's like not even what happened that night. And I
Yeah.
do like that you find out that
It was already too late, like before
Right.
it even started.
before she's even really suspicious. I think it's
Yeah.
before she even meets the detective father.
I
The
think
one,
you might be
Father
right.
Brennan?
yeah, it's like
Yeah,
already
yes.
too late, which I
Yep.
kind of
Right.
love.
Me too. And it really is very much in keeping with the themes of the Omen in general. It's coming, and you can try your hardest to fight against the Antichrist, but like
This is beyond you.
you're not gonna win. Like it's beyond you, and this is happening. So yeah, she wakes up the next day. She had blacked out. She was like, "Did I do anything embarrassing?" Her roommate's like, "No, you were fine. Maybe I saved you."
I stopped you from doing anything you'd really,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. So Margaret is kind of like, okay, seems a bit relieved. Like that's embarrassing. Could have been worse. Okay.
But then she goes and has a little breaky down.
Yeah. Well, she's still a little shaken, hungover.
Yeah.
And there's that freaky opening with
Oh.
a spider that's like on her
yeah.
eyelashes.
Yeah, there's some
There's-
good spider imagery in this.
I would say and her hair is just splayed out because she has this
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
hair.
And it's done so spidery behind her, like arrayed on the white bed sheets, that it looks like her hair is the spider.
Yes. Oh my gosh, there's a scene where there's like an old nun smoking a cigarette on a trampoline.
Yeah.
And I was like, this movie is inspired.
I really loved that. I meant to bring that up. Like, they're kind of chatting and like telling like kind of body jokes, or at least for a nun, and they just seem so comfortable and happy with their lives here. Not everything's perfect, but it was just nice to see
Yeah.
some nuns, just like some women being buds and
Just having
Enjoying
like
their
yeah,
lives.
enjoying their
a
lives.
day in the life.
Yeah.
Because like that's something that does sometimes not annoy me in horror movies, but it's like, why would you stay in a place that's scary all the time?
Yes.
Right.
If it's
And-
like always freaky and scary, you would leave.
Yeah, so Margaret is kind of bonding with little Carlita, the younger orphan, who we find out like has visions and like convulsions, and she gets restrained sometimes when she's having one of her episodes. And this really strikes a chord with Margaret because that's exactly what she went through as a child at her own orphanage. She had these like visions. She also was restrained. They told her she was bad. But I think Bill Nighy,
Yeah.
like she was like, I eventually learned that it's all in my head and it's okay.
My
So
brain was
Carlita,
lying to me.
yes, my brain was lying to me and yours is lying to you. And so they're bonding, and it's well done because you see Carlita kind of start to slowly
Yeah.
trust Margaret, and it doesn't feel forced. She's not immediately like hyper bonded with her. They never get intensely bonded, really.
Until the end.
Yeah, but I just appreciated the build of that relationship, and it really rang true to me.
Yeah, our main lady had to earn it.
Yeah,
Like she had to work for it, and she was being unprofessional. Like she was like putting too much of her own shit on this
Yeah.
kid, which in like the real world would have been bad, but within the context of this movie, it worked out fine.
sure did. Yes, so she sees Carlita sitting with Sister Creep,
No eyebrows.
no eyebrows, creepy lady, and Carlita has drawn a picture, because she loves drawing pictures, of a pregnant woman.
Surrounded by creepy,
Creepy.
weird shit.
Yes. And Margaret's just like, huh? Why'd you do this? What's going on here? And it's like, I don't think this is an appropriate drawing. More telling the nun, like, you're supposed to be watching them and shouldn't be letting her draw this.
Also, like, you're also unprofessional. I don't know.
It's the 70s. Everyone and everything was unprofessional.
Was that drawing before or after the birth Margaret had to watch? Or when didn't
good.
have to?
I think that may have already happened.
I forgot about that.
Yes, which apparently, so let's talk about that scene briefly. At some point along in here, Margaret is walking by the window of the delivery room that they have here. She's met this pregnant woman briefly during her tour at the beginning.
Because they say that they keep this orphanage open to any unmarried or like whatever indecent sluts.
Them indecents.
Them indecents.
That's
Them
right.
indecents who are having basically children out of wedlock. Like they can come to this orphanage.
Gross.
And we
That's
meet
me.
that woman
Yeah.
at the beginning. What?
I'm a bastard. I was
Oh, are
born out
you?
of wedlock. So I would have been one of them. Could have been. Who knows?
Was that your birth scene that we saw?
I think it was. Just
You're
20
a
years
creepy-
earlier.
A creepy little hand.
Came out hand first.
Yes, that was me.
So Margaret is walking by the room, kind of looking through the window. This woman is in labor, but like strapped in. She is fully restrained, which is kind of weird.
But apparently,
I was horrified by that,
The
having
restraints.
having gone through labor.
I say, as the only one here who has given birth.
Yes, as a procreator.
Yeah. I mean, I've taken some pretty big shits, but nothing on that level. Nothing
Yeah.
that needed restraints.
Restraints.
Right.
Well, because I think they were like, okay, this may be horrible and gross and
Okay.
graphic, but like, okay, as someone who has not given birth and knows very little about such things, sometimes don't they need to like cut?
Yeah.
And
They snip, snip.
that's horrible, and so sometimes they have to like restrain.
And a episiotomy. I don't think they restrain people.
I bet they did in the 70s.
I mean,
But anyway,
they did
yes.
a lot of shit back then. So,
So this woman, our main person, really has hang-ups about restraints,
Yes.
which I guess is a normal hang-up.
It seems very justified in general, and especially for her in this movie. So she sees through a window, the door's open, I think. One of the nuns doing the delivery shuts the door in her face, but you can still see through the window. She walks around to view it through another window from a different angle, and we get like this crazy montage, like close-up shots of like that infamously, this is one of the only things I knew, almost earned this film an NC-17 rating.
The vagina.
Yeah.
There's a vagina in it.
Because they're straight up like a vagina with a creepy like skeleton monster hand reaching out.
and I did take a peek at Brett's face during this, and he was mouth open, just, which I was too. But I wanted to confirm that it wasn't just a Samantha scaredy thing.
Because you don't know how much these movies are really going to go there. And this one really went there.
I see a lot of movies, and I do not often see close-ups of vaginas.
And
With things coming out.
yeah.
No, ever for
Oh,
anything.
yeah.
No, exactly. Well, because the MPAA in our
They are
country,
vagina haters.
they are vagina haters. They will give an R rating to dongs, full frontal dongs, and an NC-17 rating to labia. And like NC-17 to even just like a depiction of female masturbation.
Yes.
Stuff like that.
Well, the vagina is a precious flower that we need to hide.
And we must protect the children from the evils of vaginas existing.
I
Absolutely.
mean, this, to be fair, was maybe an evil vagina.
Well,
it wasn't.
I don't
the
think
mom- it wasn't
her
fault,
vagina
yeah.
was evil, but what was coming out?
But like,
And the event itself was certainly evil.
but my understanding is that that probably wasn't really what was happening. This
Yes.
is just what
Correct.
she was seeing.
Yes, it seems more like a vision, like one of her classic
And-
childhood visions. Because she also faints. She
Mm-hmm.
like kind of convulses and faints, and so we went back and caught that scene. It was important, and
You're welcome.
you're welcome. And I'm glad they included it because it is actually nice to see even a horrible, just like
Even a horrible vagina.
vagina.
They exist.
in an R-rated studio film with a wide release. Good for them for making it past the MPAA. I'm glad they did.
Yeah. And so, kind of zooming back to where we were, we see a creepy kid drawing with a pregnant lady, and creep nun, eyebrowless nun, is like, ho ho. She's like giggling.
And saying creepy shit. I don't remember
And
exactly
she's
what.
like, it's a boy. And that's
Oh, yeah.
when, which is important.
Yes.
And that's when.
And then she leaves.
No, Margaret is like, scolds her for being
Yeah.
inappropriate. And then she just like hysterical, like laugh cries and like runs off. And you're like, wow, that bitch is nuts. They're doing like a weird, almost like maypole without the maypole dance.
Oh, you're right. They're playing that game where they run around the person in the middle.
Yes,
Oh,
which is
right.
Carlita, is in the middle.
Yes.
And she's like looking up, because then we have, Sam, you may not know this, but this is the most obvious homage.
I did, because the previews at Alamo Draft House
Okay, you saw
had
the
that
same-
clip of the
And that's
Omen,
probably the
so-
most famous scene
Yes.
from the
That's the
original
only reason.
Omen. It's All For You, Damien, is
Yeah.
the one in the original. And we get more batshit recreation of that scene.
They go even further with
They
it by
do.
having her set herself on fire.
Yeah, so she is like sopping wet. She just appears like 3 stories up, like standing on a ledge at the top of the courtyard. Her hair is dripping wet. She is just wet and oily and creepy and deranged. And doesn't
And like
she
laugh
say
crying.
yes?
And she says it's all for you, but she doesn't say who it's for.
Yes.
Who's it for?
And then she strikes the match. And everyone's like, no, don't. But she's like, I'm gonna. And she does. So she self-immolates. And then she also has, right, the noose
Yeah.
around her neck. Because then she does what the nanny does in the original Omen, where she
Falls
through
the
and then
window.
crashes through the window. And that was a really well done homage to the original, I thought. I enjoyed that one.
Oh.
I mean, I would have been fine without it being there, because like in this world, that happens, and then like what, 5 years later, that happens again. I don't know, but it's fine. I guess I'm.
You think the devil's bag of tricks is a little deeper than
He
that?
should like mix it up a little
Diversify.
bit. But it is very
people
iconic.
stick to their old ways.
That's what I'm
Just
saying. Y'all, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I mean, they even do that scene kind of also in Immaculate. Like there was the
Yeah, they do.
nun who does a similar thing. So we've seen it, but it was I liked that it was more sort of, you don't know what this bitch is up to, why she's even in this movie.
Is she talking to Margaret? Is she talking to Carlita?
But like up until that moment, you don't know who she is or why she's there.
Yes.
Like what is her deal?
How do they
Yeah.
explain? They're like, she's just kind of weird.
Literally, yeah, she's like skulking around in a hallway when Margaret first meets her, and they're like, yeah, that's Sister Creep. She's like
She loves
that.
to giggle around corners.
Yep.
That's her thing.
She's just quirky like that.
You know?
Quirky girl summer.
So yeah, so she
Hot girl summer.
hot
She
nun,
set herself
nun
on fire.
hot nuns, hot immolated nuns. But okay, so we've actually powered through most of the movie. Do we want to take a quick little breaky break?
I think
so.
it couldn't hurt.
All right, so we'll just do a quick little ad and be right back. This episode is brought to you by some shitty mattress company. Haven't you ever wanted buying a mattress to be somehow shittier and online, where it arrives to you as like a cube of foam, or like
That takes 3 days to inflate.
takes 3 days to become itself,
Smells weird.
and it smells like chemicals, and loses all of its firmness within about a year? Doesn't this sound super exciting to you?
No, this is
want it.
amazing because I have been wondering this. Where could I find such a thing?
So you can get your shitty mattress company mattress from a box at, I don't know, get your shitty purple Casper piece of shit, because this is a podcast. Go get it. It'll arrive at your house, and you won't be able to move the box because it'll be so fucking heavy.
300 pounds.
Your 300-pound block of foam.
You know what? I didn't know I needed a new mattress until you said this, and I think that's exactly what I want.
Yeah, sorry, I've got to go. I've got a website to visit.
Use coupon code. Fuck, my back is more fucked up now from trying to carry this heavy box.
Offer code sciatica.
Comes with 20% off your physical therapy that you
Oh.
need, because you bought this mattress to help your back, but you just fucked up your back more. But don't worry, after 3 to 4 business days, it will fully inflate to be a shitty overpriced mattress.
I can't wait.
All right, well, we'll see you after we piss and shit.
And we're back. Hope everyone enjoyed purchasing their some shitty mattress. And I hope you're excited for the next 3 to 5 days while it ever so slowly inflates while your home fills with the unmistakable odor of recycled foam.
We did, I will admit, get a mattress cover that was like sleeponlatex.com. And that's what we got is a sleeponlatex.com mattress cover. And it's fine so far, but it did say it was going to take multiple days to inflate. And I was like, no, we're putting it straight on the bed.
Well, I was confessing to Sam while you were out of the room that I have the exact mattress that you're describing.
Yeah.
That's what's on my bed.
Did you at least get a coupon code from a podcast to get 20% off?
I did.
Yay!
I
He
sure
did the
did.
thing. But okay, let's talk about the second chunk of this movie. So
Featuring Father Detective.
So we have Father Detective who is excommunicated and kind of drunken, raving Irish father vibes,
Yes.
which works great for this movie. He did a great job.
And that character returns in the original The Omen.
Yes.
But
And has a great time.
Yes. But
I can't
that
wait to
was
find
really
out.
fine. Like that didn't feel shoehorned in that he was there. It didn't bother me in the slightest.
I
that
liked
there was
it.
a return. Yeah, I liked it.
I liked it.
And he
Oh, go ahead.
portrayed it very well.
Yes, he did such a good... I thought everyone did a really good job in this movie, honestly. There was no performance that really felt lacking
No,
for me. Everyone brought it.
agreed.
Could have gotten a little more from that truck driver, but that's for later.
Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So earlier in the movie, she's approached by Father Detective, and he's like, again, this reminded me a lot of Suspiria, where it's like, oh, there's something afoul over there. Come see me. And she goes to see him after creepy nun immolates herself. She goes to his it's like you see the church outside and you're like, oh, that's normal. And then it's like some nasty apartment and it's like, I
Yes.
would not go. I would have turned around.
Yeah.
I was concerned with all the locks.
Always good sign
And
when
that
you
he locked them all.
Well, what I say is like when you get in someone who you don't know's apartment and they just start deadbolting like 5 deadbolts. It's like, girly, you're in danger.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that actually the character that is the most on her side and actually looking out for her is the one that's most outwardly suspicious and
Yes.
creepy vibes. And the ones who actually wish her ill are the comforting
The
like,
people who've been her
father
friends.
figures, yeah.
Yeah, or roommate figures.
Maybe.
So he's like, oh, there's this big conspiracy. And I want to say that I loved this explanation. Because we
I did too. I really, really did.
we got an exposition dump. And it's something I actually liked a lot about both Immaculate and this movie is that it was
Yes.
not just, ooh, the creepy Satanists want to create their Satan on earth because they're evil and they love being evil and the church is good and without fault, but those Satanists, beware of them. Neither of them did that. They both were radical sects of the Catholic Church that have some crackpot idea of how to save the world from, in this one, secularism.
Yes, that was explicitly stated by the movie to increase attendance and save the world from secularism. And it kind of they kind of earn it in the movie because they're in Rome where all of these left-wing protests are happening
Yes.
right in their city every day. So the members of the church in Rome would be especially worried about the rise of secularism.
Well, and there's that great scene where he's trying to talk her through it, and he's like, "What is the church most afraid of?" And she's like, "I don't know, evil." And he's like, "No, you dumb bitch, secularism."
Yeah.
It's so good.
That they want to bring about the birth of the Antichrist so that there's undeniable proof
of evil.
That God and Satan are both real, and that that will drive people back to the church.
And he's like, yeah, their hubris is that they think they can control it. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was such a great twist.
Me too. That was the real twist for me that
yes.
I didn't see coming, and I really enjoyed that.
Yes, because I think most people who are watching this movie are not going to be surprised that she's the vessel or whatever.
Right.
but
Yeah.
like the idea that they're not, secret Satanists was
Yeah.
like very, I don't know, like charming for
Yes,
me.
and I think it also implies that there's kind of two things happening at once. There is the radical sect of Catholics who are actively trying to make it happen to fight secularism, and there are also just agents of the devil working to bring forth the birth of the Antichrist. I don't think Sister Creep was part of the conspiracy.
Right.
I think she was an agent of Satan,
Oh, really?
much like the nannies in the original Omen. That was my read.
Satan does have his.
Because
Interesting.
he's got
his
shooters out
beats.
here.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense.
That was my take. Is that she was so creepy, and I was like, yeah, you gonna trust a big conspiracy secret to Sister Laughs a lot? I don't think so. She's an emissary of Satan if I've ever seen one.
Very possible.
Just like everyone else without eyebrows.
Yeah.
You heard it here, Doja Cat.
Amanda Palmer.
Yeah. Fuck you.
So she's with father, like excommunicated detective guy, and he's like they're realizing something's off, and he's like, you need to go get the files. You need to find out who this kid is.
Yeah, he shows her the picture, right? Did we say that?
Right. There's a picture
Yes.
that's like the doctor that she saw, right? And then some of the nuns that have been like her bosses, who've been very nice and normal to her, and they're with a baby. And the baby has the 666 tattoo on its like
The mark
head,
is on its scalp.
like above the forehead.
Yes, like above the hairline, so it wouldn't be visible.
Also, okay, you would notice. This,
What do you
this
mean?
bitch doesn't know that she
Oh.
has a weird. Does she not ever touch her own head? I know like every part of my body, like every like lump and
I could
mole.
stand to know less.
But like
about
if you
mine.
had like a raised, like basically a brand on your head, would you not know? Okay.
I
Okay,
would know. Okay, but I wouldn't make the connection. I've got weird ridges in my skull
Or any
that
of
are
them?
associated with deviousness.
Okay, phrenologist.
Yeah. But I don't
Question,
know.
I
I
guess-
wouldn't be like, oh, there's a weird raised part. That must be 3 6s.
Okay.
I don't know. I would never make that.
So
connection.
was it a branding or was it an?
It's a birthmark.
No, it's a birthmark.
Okay, that's what I read it as. Okay.
And,
I
it,
understood
and it
as.
looked raised, but it may not
Yeah.
have been
They
supposed to.
say it's a birthmark, but like,
Yeah.
have you ever seen a birthmark like that?
Yes, it's on my dick.
Oh. The chosen one is here.
Oh shit! I'm deleting this.
That explains why you always have giggling nuns
Oh, God.
following you everywhere.
I do. My entourage.
Oh no.
Okay, so now she has her mission.
Yes,
Because
but
she's convinced it's, what's her name, Carlita?
Carlita. Yes.
So she's convinced it's Carlita, which none of us are convinced of at this point.
Yes.
Correct.
And next up, before she's able to go get the files, next comes the field trip.
Right, so they go on a field trip to like a museum.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, she's trying to investigate Carlita's experience.
Yes, so she sits Carlita down, kind of away from the other nuns.
And she just immediately screws the pooch.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, oh, have you had any weird experiences? Oh, you did? They're all lies, and I don't believe you. And it's like, girl, like,
Yeah,
I
she
get
didn't
why
handle
she,
it well.
I get why she did it, because
Mm-hmm.
it's showing that she's still clinging on to the way that she wants to believe her past was.
Yes. It's to protect her own self-narrative and
And
self-image.
sanity.
And that's a true trauma response that people do. They
Yes.
do rewrite history and try to live in that narrative to protect themselves. So it was very understandable. But as an audience member, you're like, oh no.
You're like, yeah, great job.
Yeah.
You nailed it. So yeah, so
Then there's a
Carlita
creepy moment where Carlita has
run off.
She's in another room. She walks in because she's trying to follow Carlita, like, oh, are you okay? And just tell you, I need to gaslight you some more. And she walks in and she sees,
The back of creepy burned giggle nun.
Yeah.
yes, like talking to Carlita, or like whispering to her or something. And then she kind of rounds the corner more and she's not really there.
There were some effective scares in
Yes.
this. Like, again, like, I don't think this was the kind of movie that was about the scares.
Yeah.
Like, there were a few. Like, earlier in the movie, she hangs up her habit or whatever on the wall, and you're like, that's going to be a jump scare. And it is.
Yeah.
Right? And it was effective and good.
Uh-huh, yeah.
But this movie wasn't really about that. But when they're there, I thought they were effective. And they weren't, like, groaners, in my
No,
opinion.
they were all well done. I'm not anti-jump scare at all. I just want them well-crafted.
I am anti-jump scare, but I was fine with these. I didn't pee myself, so.
That's good.
And I
You know.
understand people's criticisms, and they're like, "Oh, it's cheap, and it just startles you, and it's not."
That's like me.
real
That's what I
horror."
think.
I don't care about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Startling. I mean, it's all part of the same thing to me. It's all different facets of the same.
for me, it's all about the craft, and sometimes it's well crafted, and sometimes it's.
There's a big difference
bad.
between a James Wan jump scare that's like immaculately constructed. Even if you see it coming, it's just like the timing's good, etc.
The Conjuring has some of my favorite jump scares.
versus the slew of James Wan imitator.
The Nun. I did see The Nun, and I hated it so very much. Not Hot Nun Summer. She's not invited. She can pack up her swimsuit and self-immolating device and not join us on our trip. But yeah, so there's like a little jump scare, but then, there's a riot.
Yes, as they're leaving, trying to get to the bus, there's a huge riot that has broken out with the protesters.
And I think there's like a really effective scene here. And this is when I started realizing this is this kind of movie. Because you have this amazing scene where we're seeing it from her perspective first, which is she's in the crowd, they're grabbing her, and in the chaos of them, of all these people just having their hands all over her and she's screaming, you see this jackal demon Satan that's licking on her and his gross tongue. And then I am so grateful that they then show us what is happening from the other nun's perspective. And
Me
she's
too.
just by herself.
Right,
screaming.
clearly having a bad time and freaking
Yeah.
out, but she's not being grabbed by a million rioters and molested
No one's touching
by
her.
a jackal demon. Yeah, no one's touching her.
She's just screaming, and it was so good. And I was like, this movie is great.
And the lighting was super cool in that scene from her perspective. It was just so atmospheric, and there was red and
Italians are good at this. If Italians can do anything, they can light a fucking movie.
they sure can.
Yes. So then she gets back, and they're like,
You need to
girl,
postpone your vows because
Yeah.
you're an insane person.
we are a little worried about your menti health because
Menti-H.
you're having some menti-H problems, and you can't be a nun, but you can still hang out with us. And she does not take that great. But we do have a pretty great scene where her roommate is getting initiated, and it's like a wedding. She has a wedding dress that
They
she
put a
puts
ring on her finger.
Yes, she
Pretty
gets
cute dress too.
she gets married to God, I guess is the
Yeah.
idea. I'm Jewish. I don't know about this shit, but it was cool.
To my understanding, from my limited time in the Catholic Church, it is actually essentially that.
Yeah.
Nuns are married to Christ. Margaret is super upset, and she's being driven back to her home. And out the window, she spots Paolo, her would-be Italian lover.
Yeah, and he's looks like shit.
Yeah, he looks like he
pretty
hasn't
rough.
slept since their night out. And I don't think he slept that night either. And she yells for him, and he clearly does not want to talk to her. But she's like, I'm gonna get some fucking answers, goddammit. So she's like, I'm gonna walk, thank you, and sends the driver away and is running after him. He does not want to talk to her. He's avoiding her. And
And then he turns around in the middle of the street, and we all know never to do that.
He got Regina Georged.
yeah.
He did, but real bad.
He gets hit by a big ass truck and is pinned against the wall. And he's really pinned in there.
Okay.
Also,
go
my
ahead.
question is, was the truck aiming for the wall?
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say, because it's not like they're in an intersection, and that truck was going super fast. So I think, Brett, it's one of your satanic
Yeah.
influences.
I think so too.
Because there's no reason for that truck to have been going that fast when presumably they were at just an alley that was going to a wall or something.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a dead end.
Yeah.
He did not swerve.
Yes, so she goes to him, and he's like I'm sorry, and he's all sputtering up blood. He's
Yeah.
not gonna make it.
He's obviously already dead,
Yes,
but
he's
he's still
ready.
alive, and he's trying to deliver some quick exposition before he goes. He doesn't do a great job. He basically just I'm sorry, and then I think he says, look for the mark.
Look for the mark, but he points to the hairline where it was on the baby in the picture.
And then she, in just I don't know, a moment of madness. I don't know what she was even thinking. Obviously, she's just trying to help
hold
him.
him out.
But she just like picks him up and pulls him out. But he's already been bisected.
Yeah, he's been cleaved in half.
He's been cleaved, so his guts are falling onto the floor. And everyone, the crowd that is gathered, is so fucking horrified that she's just like holding a torso with like guts hanging on the ground.
Ma'am, what are you doing?
Yeah. She has temporarily taken leave of her senses in that moment.
Maybe she also maybe she thought it was one of her visions. You know, maybe she was like, this isn't real. If I just lean in, it'll show me I'm wrong.
Well, that's something I also like about the movie is that there is some sort of unreliable, not narrator, but like you're not really sure you're really seeing at any given point. But like we have this idea that Paulo knows something, has not been sitting well with him.
Yes.
And then he gets clipped by the devil himself. And then we have another Suspiria moment. So she's in the office of like the Mother Superior, and I love this. She's looking for the key, and then she sees the painting of like the cherubs behind her are not aligned, and she finds a secret door.
Love a secret door.
Love it.
And then she goes into the
file
room and grabs the files for Skiana.
And there's all these like fucked up, I don't know, like Alien 4 babies.
Yeah, Agent Orange, lumpy babies.
So we find out what's been happening is like they've been trying to make this baby, and there's been a lot of failures. And that's what I think is so shocking to her, is that this has been going on for so long. Longer than she even realizes yet. But we as the audience have already put this together a long time ago.
Right.
But it's fine, because at this point you're along for the ride.
Yeah, and all the babies, no matter how lumpy, have the 666 mark.
They all have
somewhere.
They all have the mark.
And one file is missing the photo.
Yes, and she takes the files and she's like, I'm gonna go get Carlita and get the fuck out of here. But she, again, kind of sucks at doing anything like that, because she just is making a racket. And they go to catch her, and she is able to stash the files before they get her. And then she hints to this, like, father guy. He's, like, one of the dudes there.
Oh, yeah, the helpful...
Father
younger,
helpful.
Yeah.
Father helpful.
Young father helpful. And is like...
We're fucking stupid.
I think Father Gabriel is that guy.
You're right, it is Gabriel.
Tomato, potato. They lock her in the bad room where she has a really bad time.
Scratch marks on them. I didn't notice them before that scene.
Yes, she has a really bad time in that room.
She finds the drawing that Carlita had made that's like under the rug.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Yeah. It's top tier creepy child drawing.
It's so creepy.
I love a creepy child drawing
this
when it's
was
done well.
excellent.
And this was top tier.
So she's so freaked out, and then there's a shot of the corner. It's so dark, and it's that lighting trick that I just love, where it's so dark and you're like, I know there's something there, but I can't quite see it, and the lighting slowly adjusts, and also the figure kind of stands slowly.
And moves a bit forward.
Yes.
No.
And it's really effective, and it is.
Our girl. Creepy, eyebrowless.
Sister Creep.
In the 70s, there definitely would be the prison room for the bad child.
The bad room.
The bad room for the bad child.
That struck fear into my heart when they first mentioned, like, she's in the bad room. I was like, oh no.
As a kid who would have been in the bad room all the time, I felt for her. I don't think I was ever, like, licking people's faces or biting people, but maybe I would have. Well, no, maybe I would have. Just watch it, I'll bite you.
Oh, heard it here first, folks.
So Margaret's flipping a shit. She's losing her mind, and Father Helpful comes in, is like, I found the files. Let's get out of here. And shockingly, they get out.
Yeah.
Now she's like with Father Helpful, and weirdly, her driver who isn't going to betray her.
Yeah.
I did not understand any of that.
Her driver's just cool, I guess.
And
I thought it was fine, because I thought it was like, there's the inner circle of like the higher ups who are doing the conspiracy.
I like that.
Everyone else doesn't know what this is.
It's not like
it
the
is not a
driver.
full, like, it is not everyone at the orphanage. It's just like this cabal.
How funny would it be at the end if it was like all the little kids were there? Just like literally every single person. That would have been funny. But that would have been a different movie. That wouldn't have been good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
But I would have enjoyed regardless.
that would have been very funny.
Yeah.
But so she drives off with her driver, Father Helpful. They
Oh, sorry. When she is being restrained, when they're restraining her to put her to the bad room, Carlita has opened her mouth to like fight against the other guards, and we see that Carlita does have the 666 birthmark
on the roof of her
but
mouth.
it's on the roof of her mouth,
Which
like
is a
on
cool
her,
place to put
yeah,
it.
it's like on her hard palate. And yeah, I just thought that was worth mentioning.
It's a wild shot.
Yeah.
It really is, and you just don't. I just didn't think I'd see it there.
As much as there are twists and turns in this movie that are not shocking, there are ways that they reveal things that are very fun.
And there was kind of a twist at the end that really did surprise me.
Oh, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we now know Carlita is not the child in the photo. We have this sort of moment of maybe reprieve where they've escaped.
Yeah,
they
so
have
it's
the files.
Father Detective, Father Helpful, and Margaret are in Father Detective's
shitty
apartment with a million locks on the door, and they're poring over the files together.
Yes, because they're trying to figure out like what they're missing.
Yeah, so they're poring through the files together, looking at all the various
Fucked up babies.
varieties of babies.
Yes.
And most of them, basically all of them, say died at childbirth or
Yeah.
like died shortly after.
Yes.
But the one that doesn't have a photo, she was that child.
Yes,
she
she
finally.
She touches
She
her
put
own
it
head
together.
for the first time in her life. And she realizes underneath her gigantic amount of hair.
Yes.
Also, there is a funny moment there where Father Detective is like putting his hands through her hair and it like shows us, and like in that moment it's like a bald spot.
Yeah.
With like just like very little hair, and I'm like, I understand why they did it that way so we could see it, but it just made me laugh.
Like,
Yeah.
girl, you never noticed that?
Like you just have like a bald spot with that because it's like very sparse.
Yeah, I was like, who are you, me? This is when Margaret kind of has a full flashback to what happened the night she blacked out at the disco.
With Paolo.
With Paolo.
And it is great
Yeah.
and horrible.
Yeah, I was like, horrible.
Very,
and also
very
great.
Rosemary's Baby inspired, I would say.
I love the visuals. We have, so she's getting restrained again. They put this bag, it like zip ties over her neck.
Yeah, so you see it like being sucked in and out of her mouth
Yeah.
as she's breathing, and it's so freaky looking
It's
and
very
claustrophobic.
And it shows us like what she sees, sort of like shadows and stuff.
Yep.
I also like when Father Detective is like, or maybe it was Charles Dance, it's like, oh, they have a jackal. It's like, what? How did they get that
like,
thing?
we have a Hulk. That's what that reminds me of.
But yeah, so they just like have a jackal that just like lives behind a curtain all the time and it
yeah,
just hangs
a
out
jackal,
back there.
raped jackal demon.
That
And he's
is-
coming out. He's gonna get you.
And it's so cool, this like visual. It's insane.
Yes.
Like I just love how insane this gets.
Me too.
Just before she had the bag over her head, she was able to like see an audience, right? Or am I remembering that wrong? 'Cause she saw Paolo there, right?
Yes, he was
Yes,
there.
He's there, which I think
Which
is
is why he's
But
so...
he doesn't look happy to
Yeah.
be there either. He looks very like, yes, he's involved in this, but I don't think he likes at least what he had to do. And
Do we think
Yeah.
that he was planted there by the roommate? Like I would assume.
Oh yes.
So, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I definitely think it was all a setup. I just think that
He had regrets.
Didn't
he had regrets
understand
and-
fully what was going to be happening.
because that
maybe.
could be it. It's like you've got to get this girl to come back here. Don't worry, it's for the church.
Right.
It might have been something like that where he's like, I thought this was a church thing.
No.
That's not.
That feel when you just want to go to your like church youth group and you watch a woman get
No.
raped by a giant monster.
Different vibe.
Yeah, I don't know. It was different than Hebrew school for me too.
But yeah, so we finally get that flashback. Margaret finally fully understands and remembers what happened to her.
And we realize she has already been impregnated
Yep.
and it's the ship has sailed.
But yeah, she's been pregnant since like 30 minutes into the movie.
Yep.
And I also liked, it wasn't a twist, but I just kind of liked the reveal that both she and Carlita were bred and selected for the same purpose.
Yes.
Just as they tried to do others, and they were hedging their bets to make sure.
And so they're half sisters.
Yes, and they are half sisters because we also learn that the way to produce the Antichrist is that the jackal, so he has to impregnate his own offspring, and then that child is the Antichrist.
Now, okay, I have a question. Again, I'm ignorant because I'm Jewish. Is there a part of the Bible that lays this out?
I don't believe that particular
Yeah.
piece of lore is.
It's just funny to me because it's like they say stuff like this in these types of movies where they're like, oh yeah, and then this, and it's like, okay, like, I guess I'll just believe you because this is insane.
It would take such an evil series of acts to produce like this ultimate evil being.
Yeah, no, I do like that. That makes sense. Is like, yes, you would need to do these evil things to create what this church knows is the Antichrist, which does make it different than Immaculate, where they think they're making, spoilers for Samantha and most people, they think they're making Jesus.
Yes, they're
trying to clone
potentially
Jesus.
Jesus' DNA from the nail that pierced him in the crucifixion, and somehow they take that and make a sperm.
It's fine.
What?
The movie is so goofy that it's fine.
They're both like groups of like absolute true believers doing what they think.
Who've lost their minds.
Yeah, who've lost their fucking minds.
I mean,
But
maybe
think
they're
they've
right.
fully got it together.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
What? Maybe they're right. I don't know.
Well,
Have we tried it?
don't knock it till you try it.
I don't know. We'll see.
I wouldn't recommend trying this at home, but I'm not gonna yuck your yum.
Oh, do I have to
gonna
return
yuck
my
it.
jackal?
No.
Yes. Oh,
Hey.
I'm yucking it. Please
Oh.
return it.
I mean, if it's like a rape jackal demon, then I would suggest you might see if you could get your money back.
All right. I'll see what I can do.
Or if it's a jackal that's actually just a pile of guts on the ground, a la Overlord, might want to return that one as well.
It's very jackalful.
Yes, listen to our Overlord episode if you want to get that wonderful reference I just made.
Just a pile of guts. And now we know from the beginning, Charles Dance says once the pregnancy happens, it's very quick. So now we have this like time bomb. They get in the car,
To
go get rid of the baby.
abortion
We
time.
have two Catholic
Yep.
priests who are down to abort this thing.
Which is a very, I mean, just appropriately topical reference for a 70s set movie. I mean, that was when Roe v.
Yep.
Wade happened.
Yep.
There was, it's shockingly rare to see abortion discussed in mainstream film.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where the original Black Christmas from 1972 or something, very frank discussion of abortion. She's like, I'm pregnant, I'm not keeping it, I'm getting an abortion because I want to finish my degree and live my life and have my career. And then neither of the two Black Christmas remakes, including the new hyper woke one, mention abortion at all. I feel like film and TV always sidesteps the issue of abortion or directly dealing with it. And it's just nice to see it like, this is the right thing to do
I think
because
it's
you
very
shouldn't birth the
generational.
Antichrist.
Please.
But no, I think it is very generational too, is this like fear of talking about it. But she's like, nope, I want to get rid of it. And they're like, let's do it.
Hell yeah. So pile in the car and let's zoom
go.
to the...
Let's go get into the car with a driver who I'm assuming is named Luca. And they just get in the car.
I would bet you $50 you're right.
They get in the car. They start.
This bet is not legally binding.
Was I right?
Well, there is a Luca character.
I bet I'm right. Okay, Italians are all named Luca. Okay, I'm going on the record. All right.
You're brave.
I am so brave. And so they drive off, and then they pretty quickly they're like, oh, we're being followed, and there's kind of like a fake out, and then they get clobberized, and another car hits their car. They got Sataned. And then another one of my favorite scenes happens,
Me
which
too.
is
Wow.
it's just such an homage to Possession. where
There's an infamous freak out scene in the subway where highly recommend Possession. This woman has maybe the freak out of all cinema.
that's ever freaked out in cinema.
Yes. She has the most ultimate freak out meltdown in the subway. And this scene in First Omen was clearly a direct homage.
Yes.
And done wonderfully as well. You need a really strong actor to pull that off.
And she did it.
And she really did.
So she's like having I don't even want to say she's having the baby. She's like having a pregnancy.
The pregnancy is like
stomach
developing.
is growing, and maybe there's stuff coming out of her.
I thought maybe her water broke. I couldn't quite tell.
But then later on, I'm like, well, your water didn't break.
Yeah.
But there's
But there
shit
was
coming out of
there was
her.
discharge for
Yeah,
sure.
there was heavy discharge.
As she's just like dissociating and convulsing and freaking out and
And like orgasming and
weird
screaming.
moans. And like presumably everyone else in the car is dead.
Yes.
We see for sure that like a couple of them are dead, but
Yeah.
presumably
Father,
so she's just
helpful.
alone outside the car.
Luca's face is like part of the steering wheel.
Yes. Great freak out scene, great sound design. There's like joints popping and
I love the sound
moans
design.
and oh.
Sometimes I watch a movie and I'm like, oh, this reminds me of that. This reminds me of that. This one, I just kept being like, oh, this reminds me of that. And I was like happy
Yes.
about it.
Because they were like references for like horror lovers.
Yes.
This is not just like the most obvious, like, oh, it's The Exorcist because the head's turning all the way around. It's like Suspiria and Possession and
It felt like a love letter to that like 70s horror, which of course it is,
yes.
right? Like, isn't the director Italian? I don't know. She has some kind of Italian name.
No. Her name is Arcacia Stevenson.
Well,
Arcacia Stevenson.
yes. Okay, that's how I read it.
Yeah, sorry. This is her feature film debut. She's directed for television before. She directed the 3rd season of Channel Zero.
Which Brett and I both love.
Is really good. Definitely recommend at least seasons 2 and 3.
Agreed.
And also directed the first episode of Brand New Cherry Flavor on Netflix, one of my all-time faves. And shout out to this director, because Arcacia Stevenson.
No, Arcacia Stevenson.
Arcacia Stevenson nailed it.
She did. So yeah, so now we're at the end of the movie. Margaret is once again restrained.
Yep, on a hospital bed.
On a hospital bed. She's super pregnant. Everyone's like, you're going to be great. You're doing this. Like, we love you. And it's like all the nuns and like Bill Nighy.
Yes, there's kind of a slow pan around the room showing all of their
So
faces.
many people, including her roommate.
Yeah. Oh yeah, her roommate was actually like one of the worst. We find
Yeah.
out,
Yes.
like, true believer who really made all of this shit happen.
Yes.
She's not giving birth. We are seeing
C-section.
Oh,
a
well,
labor.
there's another
We are-
slow pan past some medical implements, and it's just like scalpels of varying sizes, and then it goes to the next tray, and it's like, uh-oh. what
A
is
scoopy
that?
boopy?
There's a scoopy boopy and a pointy wointy, and
And I have had a C-section, had an emergency C-section, and some of it felt a little familiar.
oh yeah,
to
there was
be
that
honest.
close up to the where they were like cutting her
Yeah.
her belly.
I was like, hey, yeah, some of this kind of felt familiar, to be honest.
Was it the like
'Cause
80
you're-
chanting nuns?
Yeah, the robed
Yeah,
people
that was-
watching.
Yes. Well, you know what? I was in a room full of people.
I guess that's true.
You know.
Yeah,
But,
I was the
yeah,
one wearing the hood.
Oh, I hit myself. But yeah, being on that table and you're not moving, but I had a epidural. But yeah, I love my OB. She's incredible. But there's a lot of stuff they're doing, and I just remember being there and my body is moving back and forth because they are cutting and scraping and getting things out. And I was like, a lot of that was kind of familiar.
And it's like a sack. Is that how it is? Where there's just like an egg sack? I'm looking from Brett to Sam, just confused because I'm like,
Well, the difference is my water was broken before.
is that what that is? Is that sack?
Yeah, that's your. I think it's the.
I'm from
it's-
Texas.
I
We
think
didn't
the
get
baby,
good sex
the
ed.
baby being in a sack that they had to break open,
Is that
I
normal?
thought was a caul. Have you heard of this?
No.
Some babies are born with a caul, which is like a like
A shell?
flesh covering, shell over them. And they used to have like some weird name. It was like Child of the Shadow or something. But yeah, but it is a thing that it's not common, but it does occur in some
You
pregnancies.
could have.
Maybe her water
I,
did break
I
earlier.
interpreted it as that.
You
but I
could
don't
literally
know.
tell me every baby was born that way, and I would just not know. Because again, I did sex ed in Texas.
Caul, the amniotic membrane enclosing a fetus.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
I assume
To me, that's what
gets
it was.
Popped
Yes.
and
that's
when
what
your
I thought.
water breaks. So I think most of the time that's already. Like, mine had to be broke. Hello, everyone. Mine had to be broken first because I was getting ready to. I was induced and getting ready to push, but it didn't ever got there. And then I had to have a C-section. But yeah, so I believe my baby was not in one of those.
Wasn't a child of the shadow.
No, I believe
That's
my
definitely
child
not
was
the phrase.
that's to be determined
Yeah.
for your kid.
Give them
But
time.
but what's great about that is the big moment of truth is that they all want to see, did she have a son?
Right.
Because that is
Needs to
like
be a boy.
there has not been a boy yet. They want the boy because that's going to be the Antichrist, and there are twins.
Yes,
Ew!
which to me was a huge twist.
I love that.
I did not see that coming for a second, and I went, Oh my god. There's never been a mention of a girl.
Yeah.
Or like Damien's twin sister.
I love
But
it.
there she is. Yeah, I love it. I was so happy to see just like, I'm like, wow, a surprise in a horror prequel?
Yeah, it was good.
Bless my stars and bars.
Bless my
I don't know what I'm saying.
Stars. Isn't
I'm
that a
editing this out.
Confederate
No,
flag?
no, goodbye. We're moving past this.
Okay, so just kind of zooming through the rest of it so we can kind of, I want to talk more just generally.
Yeah.
But like she's like, oh, can I hold the baby? They're all like super into it. She has her plan. She gets like a scalpel. And then very much like the original Omen, she's like, I'm going to kill this baby. And she stabs Bill Nighy, which like great moment.
Yep.
Yes.
Because that for her is like the person who most betrayed her
Yep.
trust. But then the roommate subdues her, stabs her, and they all just like leave with the son, and they're like, let's just burn it all down. And so they set it all on fire. Carlita has just been around, I guess. She just is sticking her nose into things and was like, oh, there's something happening over there.
I kind of like that. I almost
Yeah.
felt like it was like Carlita's on her own journey. The movie almost could have been from her perspective.
Yeah.
Like, there was enough going on, and she was involved, and, she might have been doing her own sleuthing, and...
I mean, that's also the thing is that,
That's what I took from it.
Margaret thinks that she needs to save Carlita, but Carlita then saves Margaret.
Yes.
So she goes in, and basically the jackal burns up. Although you would think, like, a Satan would be good in fire, but I don't know.
When I also don't think they have any more need for this. Like, it's probably, Jackal Demon or Avatar of Satan on Earth. I don't think they see it as, like,
What if the
we're
movie
killing
was
Satan.
from the jackal's perspective?
And it's just the back of that tapestry.
The whole movie
And then just some, like, vague thrusting, and then he's back behind the
Oh,
tapestry.
God.
just sits behind his tapestry
no.
until the next scene where he gets to do something.
So experimental.
Oh.
So they get out.
Yeah, they escape the
and-
flames.
Yeah, they get out of the flames, and it's like Carlita and Margaret and the baby girl escape.
Yes. And so then we also see they're in the car with the clergy are in the car with the son, and they pull out a picture, and they're like, oh, the baby's going to this American diplomat, Robert Thorne.
And it's Gregory
And
Peck's
it's
picture.
a photo of Gregory Peck, which I thought was good.
I liked that.
So yes, and then we see the trade-off of like Robert Thorne's wife gets told that she miscarried, but actually they like switch out the babies, and they've convinced Robert Thorne like not to tell his wife and just like pass off the
Which
baby as
is
his own.
the beginning of the Omen.
Yes.
So it goes directly into the
like the
beginning
first scene,
of
yeah.
the first scene, which I really like.
Yeah.
And the movie should have ended there. But instead, we get, and I don't hate it, but it's just, so I saw a Letterboxd review that made me laugh. And it says, why did this end like an Avengers movie? And that, really is the vibe of the ending, where they're
Yes.
like living their little like 70s bell-bottom life in a
cabin
in
remote
the-
cabin somewhere.
in the middle of nowhere, and then Father Detective comes, and they are like, fuck off, which I liked.
Oh yeah, Margaret's
Pointing a gun
pointing
at
a
him.
gun at him, and it's like, you need to leave. But he's like, I'm just here to warn you that they know that you're alive and they're coming for you. She's like, all right, thanks, but I still need you to fuck off my property.
Yeah.
And for if anyone has not seen this and is listening, it's Margaret, Carlita, and Margaret's daughter.
Who's like a
together.
toddler or something
Yeah.
at this point.
And doesn't seem particularly antichristy.
Yeah.
Well, none of them are, right? They're the daughters of Satan.
Yeah.
So just normal women.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's all women. I forgot.
With the incest child of
Yeah.
Satan.
I mean, it's
Great.
it's convenient for family reunions when your daughter is also your
So
sister.
true.
It's just one less relationship to keep track of. But yeah, it's definitely an Avenger-style tease of like, where are we gonna go from here?
It's very silly.
But I kind of don't hate the idea that like they could continue with the daughter's storyline and just fully diverge. They don't ever have to do any of the original Omen story.
Or even better, just don't do any more in this. Like, I would just be happy if this was the last Omen movie I watched, because it was so good. Like, I was so pleased with it.
Yeah, do you think that's gonna happen?
Nope. Nope. Didn't they already greenlight like the next Evil Dead and the next Hellraiser and the next?
I think so.
What is that fucker doing right now? The one who's ruining everything. The guy who does all the Halloween movies.
Editor note: that fucker who's ruining everything is referring to David Gordon Green.
Is he doing did he just do The Exorcist?
Yes, and he's, I think, in Hollywood jail.
Oh, good.
Because Exorcist flopped so hard and was so poorly reviewed, and I think he left because they were going to do a trilogy, Exorcist trilogy with him, and the first movie was so poorly received that he exited. They probably forced him out. Now the franchise is on hold.
Good.
Yeah. So
That's it.
that wraps it up for.
We loved it.
Yeah, the First Omen. I loved it.
I loved it.
I really want to see the original,
You
the first
should.
one.
Yes.
So that's how I left the theater going, I need to see the first one. I need to see it.
Oh,
You need
yeah.
to see The First Omen. This is a confusing name, I will say. Like, I appreciate that they didn't just call it Omen.
Oh, well, it was going to be like the Omen Origins or something. So I think First Omen's fine.
X-Men Origins.
Omenine.
Menine.
Wolveromen.
All right, we're done. We set it up.
If you would like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Instagram at Queer and Loathing Pod. All one word, no special characters.
You can email us at, queerandloathingpod@gmail.com.
Yep.
Only nice things. I'm
Only
soft.
nice things.
I can't take mean hate mail.
Yeah, you can only say mean things to me on the email.
Yeah, so just make sure you say who you're addressing.
Make it very clear.
You can follow me on Letterboxd at HaterTot, one word.
And I think that about does it for this episode. So,
I'm queer.
I'm Loathing.
And I'm Samantha.
Until next time.
Bye.